Hello guys, my name is Anna and I'm a Ukrainian, and I have decided I will vlog daily from my country Ukraine from the start of this awful war with Russia. And in my daily videos I try to update you on the real life situation in Ukraine, and I'm always glad to answer your questions and to clarify some facts from our culture, history, language, or whatever interests you. And also I want to tell you that I'm extremely grateful for this very emotional and intellectual conversations that we have in comments and for our live sessions. I always finish them very inspired because I see and I read people from different corners of the world, and it is extremely important for me and valuable that you follow the events in Ukraine and that of course you follow my vlog. I'm really honored to have you among my subscribers. And today I want to speak a little bit about this global politics because I think it's a serious problem. It was a serious problem in Ukraine that after the end of the Soviet era and after our experience behind the Iron Curtain for a pretty long period of time, we were very much concentrated on the internal affairs, not paying attention to the world in general. And I know that many people say that Ukrainian or post-Soviet education at school is really good. And I don't think it's bad because we are introduced to different subjects and the program is pretty intense. But at the same time, when I look up into the programs of the universities and schools in Europe or in the United States, I see that they pay more attention to these global events and how these global events and global history is interconnected. Because really, when something happens on one side of the planet, it is very likely that people on the other side of the planet will have that influence and will hear that influence. And I understand that the war in the largest country of Europe, the war with Russia, of course, has lots of influences on other countries, on their economy, on the production of food. And actually, I know that Russia will use this argument pretty soon, the danger of famine, and they will definitely encourage us to negotiate on Russian terms. But we have to remember that this danger of this famine is not caused by Ukrainian inability to harvest or decision not to send something, but just as soon as Russians leave Ukraine, leaving all the territories that belong to us, we are ready to work. And we know that they commit lots of crime, destroying harvest, destroying grain, actually to cause this world famine. But I want to speak a little bit more about this military conflict that can become real wars in different corners of the world. And Ukraine can somehow warn or even stop this conflict. And the world must be very attentive to the situation, how it all happens, what are the predictors of that danger. And I know I have some subscribers from Taiwan, and I'm very honored by their support because here in Ukraine, even before the start of this war, we were closely following the events of Taiwan, and we knew if something happens in Ukraine, it's really likely that China can do something in Taiwan. And now today I have read an article about President Joe Biden speaking that they are keeping a close eye on Taiwan, and in general, perhaps or maybe they won't let Chinese aggression on the territory of Taiwan. And I think that maybe before this war, I was a little bit selfish, and as many countries, as many people who live in more or less peaceful countries, and I was more concentrated on our internal problems, not thinking about other nations and the dangers they face. And I know there are lots of zones of famine, there are lots of zones where people don't have enough drinking water. There are lots of zones of natural catastrophes, and there are lots of war conflicts happening right now all over the world. And I think that it is our responsibility to be very attentive to prevent as many of them as it is possible. And of course, to share Ukrainian experience on how to fight back if it is necessary. And I do think, personally, I can promise that after this war, I will be more attentive to people all over the world. And I know oh, this will sound very populistic perhaps, but much attention was attracted to Ukraine when Angelina Jolie came here and she spent some time in Lviv visiting children, refugees. But at the same time, it is really cool when you're doing something big and not connected to your work, and when you are attracting attention of the people to the problems of the world. And I think that it is so much important everywhere, in school, at the universities, even after good times that you spend with your friends, to think about these places. And I don't say that all the planet must be in sorrow because like the war is going on in Ukraine and we have really tragic things happening here. It goes without saying that it is human nature to try to come down, to, I don't know, to eat something, to watch film. It's totally okay. But perhaps deep down inside, we must leave some space for the feeling of the world and this global understanding of the planet, of the dangers, starting from the climate, which is pretty popular, and finishing with this injustice. That's why I think that this Ukrainian war teaches us Ukrainians a lot, but I also believe it teaches the world a lot. And I also see this war, maybe this won't sound very okay, but I also see this war as an opportunity for many countries, especially those countries that suffer from Russia, to become free or to regain their territories and their freedom back. And when I say it, I speak about Moldova, I speak about Georgia, I think about Belarus, because I know there are lots of normal people in Belarus who don't want to be under Lukashenko. And I honestly believe that this war gives them the opportunity to free themselves. And I know that many of them closely watch what is happening in Ukraine. Of course, I won't be like super tolerant, and I will tell you the truth. I don't feel like very much happy about the fact that Georgian and Moldova government do not demonstrate much support, taking into account their past, taking into account the sufferings that Russia caused to them. I know it is nothing else but fear, or some pro-Russian people in the government, and I know that in general the countries stand with us. But sometimes it's kind of needed, especially if you have full-scale war. You do expect the countries who had a similar experience to stand with you. But at least I hope our victory, and I'm convinced we will have victory in this war. I do hope that our victory will free lots of nations, and maybe even Russia itself. But I promise that I will not be that I cannot say ignorant, but in Ukraine, ignorant, the word close to ignorant means like when you ignore something. So I'm not going to ignore any other conflicts all over the world, because it's extremely important not to close the eyes and to demonstrate support. And I think it's a great success of Ukraine that we have managed to explain. And of course, Russia also managed to do so many bad things that only the blind, even the blind, will notice that. So I do believe that, like, all the problems, they must become our lessons. And of course, this war in my country, this Russian war in Ukraine, is a very harsh lesson, but not only for Ukrainians, but for the whole world. And I do hope that our victory will be the victory for other nations that are also in danger now. But our strength, bravery, and the global support will help them also to survive and to live freely according to their own rules. Thank you very much for being with me. If you like my vlogs, please subscribe, like, and ask me questions, because they always inspire and motivate me. Slava Ukraini!